What's up everybody, Tom here with another video. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited for what's in store for the SP 500, Nasdaq, AMC, gold, Bitcoin, Tesla and more. We'll be covering all of those. Stay tuned. So here begins our recap for the markets for June the 10th, 2021. And clearly you can see here quite a lot of big moves going on after that CPI data release and the day of trade. We had some movements down in the banks. We had some very strong movements here in the healthcare sector and technology sectors. And when we go over to the indices, you'll see that it began with a big bull, ended quickly with a bit of a bust, scaring retail out, shaking them out as they like to do on Wall Street. And then of course the big bull came back. Big day across all of the indices except for the Russell, but I still think that the Russell can recover. You can see here it's down 0.89%. When we go over to the actual sectors inside of these, you'll notice straight away our two favorites out in the lead, healthcare and biotechnology, just smashing it out of the ballpark yesterday. I'm very happy with the way that we've been rotating here on the channel, and I hope you guys are too. The community, we're knocking it out of the ballpark recently with our picks. That's amazing stuff. If you guys are interested as well in what we do here, please remember to subscribe and of course hit that like button if you enjoy our content. So what is the story over the last couple of days? Well, one of them is of course the Fed's balance sheet, as at one more update on this one, is going over $8 trillion for the first time. You can see that steady increase that's come through, supporting the market all the way since we had that pandemic crash. It's just crazy to think how big this balance sheet is getting. Another thing that of course happened is we had the CPI data result come out, and this is a good place to get it. Obviously the government releases bls.gov, and then you can get the CPI through here if you're interested. Shows you all of the different changes, and it's a good place to get the raw data if you want to. Now the market came in and it wasn't, I think, a crazy runaway like last month. So it was about 0.2% above expectation. Overall, could that lead to things like inflation? A lot of people would say those types of things. However, Wall Street shrugged it off. I think they were expecting maybe another crazy result. And because it wasn't crazy and it was more in line, they were happy. As long as it declined, they overall took that as a net positive. What I said yesterday, and I think I'll just reiterate it here before we get into the technical analysis, is this. If you usually look at CPI, it doesn't move the market as much as you think. Okay, it usually doesn't. However, when the data comes out and it's different from forecasts like it did last month, then you need to pay attention to the second one. It's then going to pack in price. So generally the forecasters get it very close. The market packs in for the forecast. So it packs in price into the action for the forecast. When the news result comes out, it's often a bit of a fizzer. When the market is uncertain, like over here, it misses and then they don't know, they will not pack in price as much as they did usually for the forecast. Now, yesterday, it only just slightly beat here in terms of it absolutely didn't go as crazy as Wall Street would have expected. And that's what I think has led to this big increase. Just remember, generally speaking, if it hits around the forecast, the price is already packed in. If it misses by a lot, either way, up or below, it usually will move quite a lot more. Let's get into the dollar index here and have a quick look at what's going on. Dollar index was weak. We can see the decline there. Still no direction on dollar index. It all comes back to the weekly when you're looking at it on the charts. Weekly indecision candles right around our support of 89.60. We'll continue to watch this on the channel, but as I've said in the past, it's not really a big thing. Where the big thing is for the market is the US 10-year treasuries and these types of things. Now, obviously, US 10-year treasuries declining is seen as a positive for the Nasdaq. And I'll tell you what, there's a pretty good trade here yesterday on the 10 years. You can see it came straight back up to our conservative support entry. So you can see the support becoming resistance, smashed straight off that and went down. And this led to, of course, the decline of the Nasdaq. What a great trade. We expect further weakness here in the US 10-year treasury over the next couple of days of trade. Now, all of this leads into things like gold and silver. Gold smashed through and came back down underneath that 1890 yesterday, hit our trend line here on the 8-hour chart and fully reversed after the CPI data came out. New peak? We don't know yet, but anything above this kind of 1904 should lead to the 1910 and then hopefully towards our 1930 goals here on gold. I'm actually going to say that this trend line is incredibly solid, and if you're looking at this and it does continue to bounce off this level, this is the level that we're looking at, then that would be great. However, I do not want this trend line. I'm going to say this again. You do not want this coming down and testing the trend line before making a new peak over here. If it does so, the chance of this breaking through and becoming a negative market for gold is incredibly likely from a technical perspective. So remember, new peak must be formed now that we've done what we've done. We've come back, we've made a lower peak so far, we've come back and tested it. This thing has to go on and do the business. If it comes back down to this trend line, I would not feel confident about it at all. Let's move over to silver. Silver is increasing along with gold, but it still isn't out of the big kind of problematic areas. You can see here we haven't had a daily close above 28.20. That's what we're looking for the next trigger that hopefully brings us towards the 30 benchmark. That's the zone that we want to be in for silver. Let's move over to BTC. So Bitcoin is an enigma for many people. It hit that 37,600, the top end of this trend line coming down on the symmetrical. It went down. We saw some stuff about the IMF. We saw some kind of like news coming out, which slightly ruined some shorts that I think were there. But ultimately, the big whales are trying to short this one through. You can see them trying to put it down right now. And I'm very worried for Bitcoin over the next 24 to 48 hours. This is looking negative when you look at it on a chart. Some people are going to draw in here. They're going to draw a invert or head and shoulders. They're going to go the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder, and you can see that neckline, which is just about to be broken at the time of this recording. That's pretty negative. But when we go over to something like BTC shorts, which I do understand is not the entire market, and you extrapolate this out to like a weekly, you can see the amount of whales that have been dumping this market, support, 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 resistance, resistance, if we want to take it that way, has been huge through this one. Now, I had a look at Binance. It's been big there as well. Shorts are outpacing longs, which could mean further decline in Bitcoin. So it's a super interesting chart. Continue to watch that space. Speaking of shorts and short squeezes, we'll go over to AMC. So AMC actually acted relatively technically yesterday. We couldn't clear past this 52 level. These are the levels that we had in from the live stream, so we haven't changed anything. We had pretty decent support through this area. Initially in the morning, it found support, went up. Couldn't get through the 52, unfortunately. That would have been a great level if it got through there. I would have thought it goes back to at least 56 into the 60 area. But unfortunately, it failed. We closed above the 48 zone, and it was all she wrote. Came all the way back down to 40 as a psychological number, and then kind of like weakened off the day after a little bit of a bounce. Where to next? I could see the all-time highs before this whole squeeze being the next level of support underneath 40. And if it gets under there, oh, it's not looking good at all. So hopefully it can increase through the Friday session. Good luck to AMC holders out there. And it was similar across all the squeeze stocks. Let's move on to the other markets now. We'll go to Tesla. Tesla straight away, 610. It's a good close. Plaid event came out. I didn't look into it too much. But realistically, when we look at the price action here, overall, what's going on? It's increasing. Is this a strong kind of setup? Not really, but it's above 600, which is the main thing. For Tesla holders, the real cheese, I think, is going to be when it cleans this 635. If it can get above there, where does it go to? 660, 666. There's going to be a lot of participation between this zone. And I think any clean above this area where it closes above is going to lead to some nice increases. Be careful of the overarching kind of like trend lines that go through the bigger time frames. If you go to something like a daily, you'll notice here that all these peaks are something that I would be watching. So that trend line that goes through these peaks, I'd be certainly watching it. And notice how it lines up with the 660. It's great when you can find these technical analysis reasons to get in. So we're thinking bullish into this zone, bit of bears, test. If it closes through, that's super positive for Tesla. We'll continue to watch this story, guys. Subscribe to find out more. US 100, this is where the action was. So we saw a whole bunch of stocks do really well as well. A lot of the hyper stocks that we've been in recently have been doing great. We saw that rotation a few weeks ago start to come in as they form base. They've been the best performers other than the squeeze stocks in the market. And here's the US 100 going towards 14,050. I don't see how it would stop at this stage. It looks super bullish into that zone. That's a real positive. Here is the futures right now. If we have a look at the QQQ, this is going to push into 342. And again, looks really great. If we have a look at it on a daily, really strong candles coming off those two bearish candles. Decision is made. Let's go towards 342 and possibly new all-time peaks for the Nasdaq. It's actually been sitting around for quite some time now. So I could see this bashing through this level and continuing on. When we move over to something like the S&P 500, we witnessed history yesterday, guys. A big all-time peak here on the S&P 500. It came down throughout the day as we did see rotation out of the financials, out of things like John Deere, which is a pretty negative looking chart. We've been looking at that one on the on the live stream, so you'll know what I'm saying if you've been watching those. And we had here resistance becoming support. And I think that this is a good little launch pad for the Friday session. Hopefully, again, we see some green, though, because it's now a green week overall. There's always that possibility in the afternoon through the Friday session, we see some take profits. Hasn't been as big a thing as it used to be, though, for Wall Street. So this is a good little level. It's broken through. It's clearly closed. If we have a look here, all-time peak closed against, which is the biggest thing. Close confirmation is key. And I think we go back to our trend line now. This is our community trend line. This is the area that we expect Wall Street to try to push the S&P 500 up. And you can see there's some runway here. I mean, even as a raw percentage, there's about 3.5% to 4% here in front of it. I mean, I don't see how this is going to be a false break, but at this stage, it's only the price action that we can go off. So everybody, hopefully you're doing well in the markets. Just a quick reiteration on US oil. Everything's looking relatively good here. We've got 2 rejections now off this high-end zone of about 70.50. So hopefully that can be breached towards the 72 and 75 area. Oil continues to present as one of the better trades recently in the markets as well. But I can tell you what, it's crazy how many people were bearish through the Thursday session. And again, shows you how the mainstream media, how everyone gets negative on something. And unfortunately, Wall Street likes to do the opposite and take all of our money. Be careful out there, guys. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe, give us a like. We'll see you in the next one, or 1.5 hours before New York Open. That's when we live stream. Come join us. It's a lot of fun. Bye for now.